It was a late afternoon in the rugged terrain of Burkina Faso, where the earth seemed to stretch endlessly under a golden sky. Ibrahim Traoré, the newly appointed leader of the country, was driving through a remote village road. His thoughts were heavy with the weight of his leadership. The country was in turmoil, facing not only external threats, but internal divisions. Every decision, every step he took could alter the future of the people who had placed their trust in him. The car's engine hummed steadily as Ibrahim reflected on the path that had led him here. He had never imagined himself in this position. A soldier by profession, a protector of his people, he never anticipated that one day he would have to lead them through the darkest of times. Yet, here he was, at the helm of a nation that was in desperate need of change. As the car sped through the narrow, dust-covered road, Ibrahim noticed something out of the ordinary ahead. A dog, a large, imposing figure, was standing firmly in the middle of the road. It was unusual to see such a bold creature in the middle of nowhere, but Ibrahim wasn't one to question the unexpected. He slowed the car, his fingers tightening around the steering wheel. But as he approached, the dog didn't move. In fact, it seemed to be daring him to continue forward, standing its ground as though it had a purpose. Ibrahim's heart skipped a beat as a strange sense of urgency washed over him. He instinctively checked the rearview mirror and saw nothing, no other cars. Then, from the distance, the thunderous rumble of an approaching vehicle could be heard, echoing through the open road. It was a large truck, barreling down the path with alarming speed. The driver, oblivious to the dog blocking the road, was heading straight toward them. Ibrahim's pulse quickened. He knew he couldn't wait for the dog to move on its own. In a split second, he put the car in reverse, narrowly avoiding the oncoming truck's path. The truck zoomed past, its massive tires kicking up a cloud of dust that filled the air, blocking his view for a brief moment. When the dust settled, Ibrahim took a deep breath, his heart still racing. The dog, unbothered by the near accident, stood aside and glanced back at him. With a calm, almost knowing gaze, it turned and trotted off the road, disappearing into the wilderness as if it had completed its task. Ibrahim sat there for a moment, still processing what had just happened. It had been an unexpected, strange moment, but in that brief encounter, he had experienced a profound sense of clarity. The dog, with its unwavering stance, had protected him in a way that defied logic, just like his people, resilient, unyielding, standing firm in the face of adversity. As he continued his drive, Ibrahim couldn't shake the feeling that the dog had somehow known that danger was ahead. Perhaps, in that moment, it had been sent as a guardian, a silent protector of the road, guiding him to safety. And as he looked ahead toward his uncertain future as the leader of a nation at war, he realized that sometimes leadership was about being alert, recognizing the unexpected, and having the courage to act. In the end, Ibrahim knew that, just like that dog, he would have to stand firm against the forces that threatened to tear his country apart. And though the road ahead was uncertain, he felt a renewed sense of purpose. He was ready to lead his people through whatever came next, just as the dog had guided him through a moment of danger. As the truck sped past, Ibrahim's heart was still pounding from the close call. But there was something more to this situation, something that felt too coincidental for comfort. His instincts were screaming at him. The dog, the truck, the timing, it all seemed too perfectly orchestrated. Ibrahim knew this was no accident. The truck that had nearly hit him wasn't just some random vehicle. It had been planned. He could feel it in his bones. His enemies knew his every move. They had figured out his route, and they had made sure to set up a trap to take him down. But what they hadn't counted on was the unexpected intervention of a clever creature named Tiger. Tiger was no ordinary dog. He wasn't just a loyal companion to his young owner. a quiet boy from a nearby village. The boy, whose name was Coffee, had a sharp ear for conversation, a gift for picking up on things others might miss. One afternoon, while playing with Tiger in the village, Coffee had overheard something he shouldn't have. Two men, strangers to the village, had entered the small bar where Coffee and his dog often went to fetch water. The men spoke in hushed tones, but their words were clear. They had learned that President Ibrahim Traoré would be traveling through that road at a specific time. The two strangers spoke eagerly about how this was the perfect opportunity to end his life, to rid the country of the leader they despised. Coffee, terrified, knew he had to act fast. He wasn't old enough to understand all the political intricacies, but he knew one thing: the president's life was in danger, and it was up to him to do something about it. He couldn't let these men succeed. But there was something Kofi had that no one else did: his dog, Tiger. Tiger had been with Coffee since he was a child, and the dog was not just a companion. He was intuitive, intelligent, and fearless. When Coffee had learned of the plot, he didn't hesitate to whisper the plan into Tiger's ear. The dog, ever loyal, seemed to understand the urgency of the situation. Without wasting any time, Coffee sent Tiger out on a mission. He knew that the road ahead was dangerous, but Tiger had always been quick and resourceful. The boy's plan was simple: get to the road before the president, warn him of the trap, and, if necessary, stop the truck. Tiger had trotted through the streets, his eyes alert, his senses sharp. When he saw the truck making its way down the road toward Ibrahim's car, he knew exactly what needed to be done. Tiger ran ahead, positioning himself in the middle of the road, blocking the path of the oncoming truck just in time to prevent it from reaching the president. Ibrahim, now knowing the truck was no mere accident, had quickly reversed his car and avoided disaster. He was shaken, but as he looked at the dog standing proudly in the road, he knew something extraordinary had happened. Back in the bar, Coffee had been watching from a distance, hiding behind a nearby wall with his heart in his throat. He saw the truck's failure to carry out its mission and breathed a sigh of relief. He had no idea if Ibrahim had realized who had saved him, but he hoped that the president would understand. As Tiger trotted off the road, satisfied with the work he had done, Ibrahim sat in his car, eyes wide with disbelief. He realized that fate had intervened in the most unexpected way. The dog, this courageous, wise creature, had saved his life. Ibrahim took a deep breath, his hands still gripping the steering wheel. It wasn't just luck that had spared him. It was the quiet bravery of a young boy and his dog. A boy who had overheard a conversation, and a dog who had known exactly what to do. As the sun set behind the horizon, Ibrahim Traoré continued his journey, but this time with a renewed sense of gratitude and a deeper understanding of the unexpected forces at play. The road ahead was still fraught with danger, but he knew one thing for sure: he was not alone in this fight. The sun had set, and the cool evening air settled over the presidential compound. Ibrahim was sitting in his office, his thoughts still swirling from the events of the day. The close call with the truck, the discovery of the plot, and the capture of Nabil were all pieces of the puzzle, but there was still something that felt incomplete. Ibrahim's mind kept returning to the dog Tiger. He knew it wasn't just chance that the dog had blocked the road at the exact moment the truck was about to strike. There was something more to this, something deeper. He needed to understand how everything had unfolded. As if on cue, there was a soft knock at the door. "Ibrahim," the voice of his trusted aide called out. "There's a boy here to see you. His name is Coffee. He says he has something important to tell you." Ibrahim's heart skipped a beat. Coffee, the boy who had overheard the plot and whose dog had saved his life. The one person who could fill in the missing pieces of this strange and life-altering chain of events. "Bring him in," Ibrahim replied, his voice steady but filled with curiosity. The door creaked open, and Coffee stepped inside. He looked young, no more than 13 or 14, with dark, wide eyes that carried the weight of the day's events. His hands trembled slightly as he held the leash of his dog, Tiger, who walked beside him, eyes bright and watchful. Coffee's mother had insisted that he stay home, that it was dangerous for a boy like him to be involved in matters as serious as this. But Coffee, determined and steadfast, had insisted on coming. He knew that Ibrahim needed to hear the truth. Ibrahim gestured for the boy to sit, his gaze softening. He knew the courage it took for Coffee to stand before him now. The young boy was no ordinary child. He had done what many adults would have hesitated to do. Coffee sat down, Tiger lying at his feet, and took a deep breath. He seemed unsure at first, but the moment he looked up into Ibrahim's steady gaze, his fears eased. "Sir," Coffee began, his voice quiet but clear, I overheard the men talking in the bar, the ones who planned to kill you. They said you would be passing by the road. They spoke about the truck, about how they would end your life. They said no one would stop them." Ibrahim's heart tightened as he listened. It was exactly as he had feared. The plot had been carefully orchestrated, and there was no room for doubt now. "Go on, Coffee," Ibrahim said, leaning forward. His voice remained calm, but there was a fire in his eyes. He needed to know everything. Coffee nodded, and Tiger, as if sensing the importance of the moment, raised his head and looked up at Ibrahim. The dog's intelligent eyes seemed to understand the gravity of the conversation. Coffee continued, "I knew I had to do something. I couldn't just let you die, sir. I couldn't live with that. So I told Tiger everything. He understood. He ran ahead of me. I didn't know if he'd make it in time, but I had to try. He's always been smart, always looking out for me. I trusted him, and he trusted me." Ibrahim's heart swelled with respect for the boy and his remarkable bond with his dog. But it was Tiger's actions that truly moved him. The boy paused, looking down at Tiger, who sat beside him now, as if waiting for his turn to speak. Coffee gently patted the dog's head, his voice thick with emotion. Tiger knew what to do. He stopped the truck, he blocked the road, and you saw it. You saw how he saved you, didn't you? Ibrahim nodded slowly. "Yes, I saw him. He was brave. He saved my life." Coffee smiled faintly, his eyes shining with pride for his dog. "He's always been brave. We've been through a lot together. He's more than just a dog. He's my protector." Ibrahim's gaze softened as he looked at the boy and his dog. He understood the bond they shared, a bond that went beyond mere companionship. Coffee had risked his own safety to help protect his president, and his dog had been the true hero of the moment. "Thank you, Coffee," Ibrahim said, his voice filled with gratitude. "You and Tiger saved my life today. You've shown me what true courage is, and I will never forget it. You both are heroes." Coffee's cheeks flushed with a mix of pride and humility. But before he could speak, Tiger stood up, walking over to Ibrahim. The dog nuzzled his hand, and Ibrahim, understanding the gesture, gently rubbed his head. "You're a wise one, Tiger," Ibrahim murmured, smiling as the dog wagged his tail. Coffee looked up at Ibrahim, his expression serious. "Sir, I didn't do it for a reward. I couldn't let you die. I want you to help my people. I want you to lead us to a better future." Ibrahim's heart stirred. The boy's words held a depth that transcended his age. He was wise beyond his years, and his loyalty to his country and its leader was something Ibrahim couldn't ignore. I promise you, Coffee, I will. Your courage has given me new strength. Your people or people will not be abandoned. We will rise together. Coffee nodded, his eyes bright with hope. Thank you, sir. As the boy and his dog left the room, Ibrahim stood by the window, gazing out over the city. He felt a deep sense of resolve, a renewed determination to protect his people. He was not alone in this fight. He had allies, even in the most unexpected places. And as he looked down at the dog, Tiger, who had stood guard over him and his country, Ibrahim knew that the road ahead would be difficult, but he was ready. With courage, loyalty, and wisdom like Coffee's and Tiger's, nothing could stand in their way. The near-death experience had shaken Ibrahim, but it also steeled his resolve. He knew that he couldn't afford to let this incident slip away into the shadows. Someone had tried to take his life, and that was a threat he couldn't ignore. After safely making his way back to the presidential palace, Ibrahim immediately summoned his top generals and a select group of trusted soldiers. They gathered in a secure briefing room, their faces grim and tense as Ibrahim spoke, his voice calm but unwavering. "We've just survived an attempt on my life," he said, his eyes scanning the room, meeting each of their gazes. "It wasn't an accident. Someone knew my route, my exact timing. We need to find out who is behind this and why they want me dead." The room fell silent as the soldiers processed his words. Ibrahim could see the wheels turning in their minds, their determination to protect their leader and country evident in their eyes. "I want the area near the bar searched thoroughly. We need to find any trace of those men who were plotting against me," Ibrahim continued. "But more importantly, we need to find Coffee. He overheard the conversation. He and his dog saved my life today." The soldiers nodded and immediately set off, their mission clear. But Ibrahim had other plans. He knew that in order to uncover the full extent of the conspiracy, he had to get to the heart of it. Within hours, Ibrahim's soldiers had traced the truck's origins. They found that it was owned by a local businessman with connections to a dangerous underground network. The man's name was Nabil, a known ally to corrupt factions who were intent on destabilizing the country. They had been plotting for months, waiting for the right moment to strike. Ibrahim's presidency had become a thorn in their side, and they believed that removing him would weaken the nation. But there was more to the plot than just a random attack. Ibrahim's men found that the truck had been equipped with a device meant to disable his car. A sabotage, meant to make sure that the collision wasn't just a near miss, it was supposed to be the end of Ibrahim's life. Once the investigation team gathered enough evidence, Ibrahim's soldiers moved in swiftly. They raided Nabil's compound under the cover of darkness. The compound was a sprawling, heavily guarded estate, surrounded by high walls and patrolled by armed men. But Ibrahim's soldiers were prepared for this. They infiltrated the estate quietly, using their skills to disable the guards without alerting the mastermind. The operation was flawless. Ibrahim's soldiers found Nabil in the heart of the estate, sitting in a dimly lit room, surrounded by expensive furniture and piles of documents. He had been waiting, thinking that his plot was about to succeed, but when the soldiers burst through the door, he knew immediately that his time had run out. "Traoré," Nabil sneered as he was dragged to his feet. "So, you think you can stop us? You think you've won?" Ibrahim walked into the room, his gaze unwavering. His soldiers stood at attention behind him, their weapons at the ready. "You didn't think it would be that easy, did you?" Ibrahim replied coolly. "You planned my death, but you underestimated the loyalty of the people and the power of fate." Nabil smirked, but Ibrahim could see the fear creeping into his eyes. His empire of corruption was crumbling before him. "Tell me who's behind this," Ibrahim demanded, his voice low but firm. "Who else is involved?" Nabil remained silent for a moment, but Ibrahim could see the wheels turning in his mind. He knew that the only way to escape the consequences of his actions was to shift the blame. "I won't tell you anything," Nabil growled, his defiance fading. "But you're just one man. You can't fight the forces at play here." Ibrahim stepped closer, his presence commanding. "You might have your networks, your money, your corrupt dealings. But in the end, it's people who matter. And right now, I have an entire nation behind me." With a final, piercing look, Ibrahim signaled to his soldiers, "Take him away. He will face the full extent of the law for his crimes." As Nabil was led out of the room in cuffs, Ibrahim's mind was already working on the next steps. The threat wasn't over. There were more people out there, more enemies who would stop at nothing to see him fall. But now, more than ever, Ibrahim knew that he couldn't do it alone. The next morning, Ibrahim met with his generals once more. He was no longer just the president. He had become a symbol of defiance, a leader whose life had been spared by the most unlikely of heroes, a dog and a boy. And as he looked at the faces of his generals, all loyal and determined, Ibrahim knew that he would continue to fight for his people, for his country, no matter what came next. "I've always known the road to leadership would be treacherous," Ibrahim said, his voice steady. "But today, I know one thing for sure. We will stand firm, and we will rise above those who seek to bring us down." His soldiers nodded in agreement, ready for whatever would come next. They had fought together through many challenges, and now they would fight for the future of their country, side by side,